Oh, God. There's just going to be a cat in this one. All right. Month 6 is in the books. And more importantly, race day is in the books. The triathlon is behind me. It went okay. All right, thanks. I'm just kidding. No, it went fine. Just a quick word on month 6 before I go into race day. Very quick. All I really did was train the way I was training. Instead of bricks, we did dry runs of all 3 events. Those went fine. My times weren't great. They weren't bad. It was a good confidence booster. It was more about mental training than physical training, really. I just felt better after having done it all. Knowing I had the capacity to do it all was a huge step. So highly recommend a dry run or 2 in the last month leading up to race day. I also tapered my training, which is a term for being lazy. For my taper, I ended up taking a whole week before the race off, and that was plenty and probably too much. My energy levels went through the roof like 3 or 4 days into the taper, and on race day I felt good, but my energy had already started to go back down. So yeah, maybe just 3 or 4 days next time, but otherwise the taper was good. I ate pretty normally. I'm also not doing before and after shots of me on race day because it's not fair. I'll explain. I had to kind of carb back up for a couple days before the race. So while I looked good a couple weeks before the race, I started to kind of like look more like a water balloon closer to race day. So those aren't fair. I did get a couple of shots of myself during a night dive for another project that I'll probably throw in somewhere, just so that, you can kind of see them. I look pretty different. But anyway, that was the taper leading up to race day. The day before the race, we drove down to pick up our race packets, which includes like the swim cap, the bib, the number that you wear, and the stickers for your bike and your helmet. It also gives you the opportunity to go and look at the course. Not the whole course, but you can go look at the transition area, which I highly recommend, and we did that. And we got to go down and look at the water, which was a good idea. It was a little bit scary seeing it in real life, a little eerie, but it also gave me a feeling of control over it. I felt like I can do this. It looks long, but it looks doable. So we did that. And then I came home and I set my stuff out pretty carefully the night before. Had a little bit of help, but I set my stuff out, and you're kind of supposed to do that in piles. So you set out your swim stuff, your bike stuff, and your run stuff, obviously. I did a mental checklist. I mean, best practice apparently is to put it all on. So to put all your swim stuff on, take it off and put on all your bike stuff, take it off and put on all your run stuff, and make the piles that way. I didn't find that necessary. It's probably a great idea, and I probably should have done it, but in my case, it didn't feel like it was necessary. And I packed it all pretty carefully into just my backpack. I didn't have a special bag or anything, just like into the backpack. So once I was all packed, I went to bed very early because I had to get up very early. I also slept in the guest room so that I wouldn't bother anybody else with my weird, going to bed at like 8 and waking up at 4:15. I didn't want to bother anybody else, and I certainly didn't want anyone else bothering me while I was trying to sleep. And so I went to bed super early in a room by myself. We have a guest room, which is pretty lucky. But I didn't do too much other special as far as my sleeping goes. It was pretty much the same old routine, just at a different time, a little bit offset earlier. The reason that I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning is because I had to eat, and it had to be at least a couple of hours before the start time of the race. I wasn't 100% sure when I was going to start exactly. So it made sense for me to eat at like 4:30 or so, like as soon as I got up. Highly engineered athletic meal. I just wanted to get some carbs, some fats, and a little bit of sugar, starch in the form of a banana. I just ate that, and not too much peanut butter, just enough to cover the bread, and just pounded a whole thing of water. That set me up pretty good for the day. I did not feel hungry at any point during the race. I checked my bag again, but nothing comes out of the bag while I'm checking it. So I went through sort of a mental checklist. Again, I should have made a paper checklist. But I made a sort of a mental checklist and just went through the bag, but nothing comes out to look for anything because that's exactly how I leave stuff behind. So everything stayed in the bag, and I just sort of scooted it around to make sure that I had everything. And I did, and I was ready to hit the road. And Greg came and picked me up, and we went. So there was a little bit of nervous chatter on the road. Then we got there, and I met a bunch of cool people. Triathlon zombies. And the type of people who would show up at a state park at 5:45 in the morning to do something very physically difficult. Those kind of psychos. Really, really nice people. And we met a bunch of them just pulling in. It was great. I already felt like, ooh, this is a group of folks that I'd like to know. So then we kind of checked in. I already had my bib on. I had my number written on me with a marker in a bunch of places so that if they saw me on the camera, they'd be able to tell my number if they couldn't see my bib. They also write your age on the back of your leg. I think that's for the paramedics, just in case. It's the only thing I could think of. Maybe it's because of your division in the triathlon. I don't really know, but they write your age on the back of your leg. There's something about like having a guy blow past you in any of these events, like just destroy you, go screaming past you, and then on the back of his leg, he's like 64. So then we found a spot in the transition area, put our bikes up, and just made little piles of our stuff. You only need 2 piles because you're wearing all your swim stuff already, and you just need 2 piles for the 2 transitions, right? You just need a pile for your bike stuff and a pile for your run stuff. Got it all set up, and then it was just waiting. Just going down to the water, standing there with everybody else, and everybody, even the people who were really experienced, had this sort of nervous energy about them. It really was something else to be a part of, to be standing in that group. And then you just wait for the gun. So the swim was scariest on the beach. I felt confident, but it definitely was like, I'm about to do something here. So you're looking at the water and kind of like, I hope this goes well. There's also definitely a moment of like, this is it. I've been doing this for like 6 months now. This is it. One thing goes wrong and all this effort would be kind of a little bit wasted. So there's this sort of giddy energy before you get going that's hard to describe. It's not necessarily bad. It's just really hard to describe when you're getting ready to go. And then you self-seed. So you pick how fast you think you're going to swim and go to the front or the back of the line. Back of the line guy. Went near the back of the line. And you kind of ask people, like, what's your swim time? And then you kind of like try to put yourself in the right spot. It doesn't matter that much. A fast swimmer's going to catch you, and you're going to catch a slower swimmer. You're only separated by 5 seconds, and you go out in pairs. So there's 2 lines, 2 people go, 5 seconds go by, there's a buzzer, 2 people go. You wear an ankle bracelet, and you go over a special tape that tracks the ankle bracelet. So they know exactly when you left, so your time is exact no matter where you are in the seed line. And then you just go, and then you're in it. And you're swimming in a group, which a lot of people find scary and a little bit difficult. I actually found it kind of comforting. First of all, whatever lake monster lives in this pond is definitely going to get one of these other people. I'm the main character. That's not going to get me. It's going to be one of these other people. So there was that. But also it gave me, when I almost bumped into somebody or somebody almost bumped into me, it gave me an excuse to stop and sort of like check my pace, see where I'm at. The ability to tread water and float was a huge confidence builder. Just knowing that I could stop and rest whenever I needed to basically mentally got me over the swim before I had even started. So swimming in a group and like being inconvenienced and having to stop, it freaks some people out, but it kind of helped me. It helped me to pace myself and it helped me to feel more comfortable. So that was not something I was expecting. And it's not going to be true of everybody, but it was definitely true for me. I also saw a couple of people fail, which was kind of scary and kind of helpful. The first person was within the first 50 meters. And all I could think to myself as I was going by, after I found out she was okay, the first thing that I thought was like, I felt so bad for her. Because clearly, I mean, she didn't look like a triathlete. Clearly she had done some preparation for this. Clearly she had gotten ready for it. She was probably excited for it. And suddenly she's yelling for help, you know, not even halfway through, like in the first like 10% of the first event. That must be a terrible feeling. So that kind of made me feel like, oh, man, I feel bad for her, but I'm just going to keep going because I knew she was okay. The second guy looked a lot like a triathlete. And I had this Chester Copperpot moment where I was like, this guy's a pro and he didn't make it as far as me. I got this, man. I got this by the ass. Like, it felt like if I'm going to go further than this guy, I must be in good shape. I must be ready to go. He probably had like a cramp or was like having some sort of congenital heart failure or something. Or congestive heart, whatever. But like, yeah, actually, I feel so guilty, but like blasting past that guy while he was in distress Ooh, that helped a lot. That was very motivating. But that was in like the last 100 meters of the swim. He might have actually kept going, I don't know, but I just saw him clinging to one of the lifeguard paddle boards and I figured, you're done. Made me kind of feel like a bad person, but that's okay. One of the biggest pitfalls of the swim, and a lot of triathletes told me this, is you go too fast. Especially in open water, when you're swimming, you have no reference point to figure out how fast you're going, and the feeling is, there's no other way to describe it, the feeling is that you're not moving at all. You feel like you're just sitting still, and that is a creepy feeling when you're trying so hard. Your impulse to fight it is, I gotta go harder, I gotta go faster, I have to go harder, I have to go faster. What happens is you burn yourself out. Your pace is way too fast. I found that to be true about me, even though I'm not a very good swimmer. I found that to be true about me too. So my method here, the idea that I had was, I was wearing my GoPro. I was wearing my G-Shock, you know what I'm talking about. Imagine if I was wearing a GoPro, there'd be so much footage, good footage in this, and there's none, zero. No, I was just wearing my G-Shock, and the idea was, you swim out to the first buoy, and you take a turn to the second buoy, and then you swim all the way back for the sprint. Like, those are the distances, right? The idea was every time I need to, I'm just gonna stop, roll over my back, and check my pace. And odds are I'm gonna be going too fast. So it'll be a good thing to sort of break that up and like give me a minute to catch my breath and like reset and start over again. I also built in like some forced breaks essentially. So I would have to break at each buoy. So I would hit the first buoy, I would stop, roll over my back, check my pace, and I set what I wanted to, each leg to be time-wise. That worked brilliantly. I didn't hear that anywhere. I sort of made that up. I'm not saying I'm the first person in history to do it, and most serious triathletes wouldn't stop during a swim to check their time because that would hurt their time. But in my case, I needed to because I'm not good at pacing yet. So that actually worked great. I stopped at both buoys, and I think maybe 2 other times where I would just stop, roll over my back, and check my G-Shock to make sure that I was on pace. That worked really, really well. Surprisingly well, in fact. And I'm glad I did it. So then I got closer to the end of the swim, and I was now looking at the bottom, like really hoping to see the bottom, because as soon as I see the bottom, I think I can put my feet down. So I'm swimming, and I saw a rock. I didn't see the bottom, but I saw a huge rock. And I know that rock's on the bottom. So that kind of made me go a little faster, because I feel like I have more in the tank than I thought I would. So it's okay if I kind of overextend my pace just a little. That wasn't actually very smart, but it didn't hurt me too badly. Then I could see the bottom. And when I gauged it, I thought, oh, I'm in a spot here where I can stand up. That was a mistake. It was still way too deep. So I went from swimming really fast near the finish line to looking like I was drowning because I was trying to get my feet to touch the bottom. And then I just started, I was like, all right, just keep going until you're sure. So I kept going. And I got to the point where I could see that my swimming strokes, were actually kind of messing up the silt on the bottom of the pond. Then I knew for sure I was shallow enough. I put my feet down and ran out of the water, and I felt great. I ran up that hill. I was struggling with my wetsuit, and this little guy in Speedos comes running up behind me, and he's like, I can help you with that, brother. Zip. And I was like, oh. But anyway, I felt great getting out of the water, and I felt like at that point I was in the clear. Now, my target for the swim originally was 15 minutes, and I didn't make it, but it was close. It was really close. So I knew I was a little bit behind, but I thought that's my weakest event in the bag, and I'm not that far behind pace just yet. So I feel like I'm in with a shout. Then it was time for the bike. I thought my transition was pretty good. It was not. My transition was very slow. Looking back on it, I was like, what were you doing that whole time? It was almost 5 minutes. But it felt quick. I felt like I got my sweatsuit off. I felt like I got my wetsuit off, and I felt like I was in my stuff and on the bike relatively quick, but it took a while. Longer than I thought, for sure. Trotted my bike out to the mounting area, hopped on the bike. I think we're all at this point familiar with my hopping on skills. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, I felt like I got a hot start, and I was going pretty fast. I passed a surprising amount of people, which I assumed was some sort of mistake. Like, I felt like I was passing people, and they were going to be like, oh, this is that, got to be his first one. Like, he has no idea what he's doing, going that fast. But no, they stayed behind me. I mean, I stayed in front of them. It's pretty good. I also got past a few times, so that wasn't great. And I was feeling kind of encouraged, and then I saw a pretty bad accident. I didn't see the accident itself, but I saw the guy lying on the road. And kind of getting dragged off to the side of the road. And it looked like his helmet had been lifted up and he had caught a rock or something, so his head was open and it was bleeding pretty good. And that kind of focused me up a little bit, because this guy looked like he knew what he was doing. He had a very expensive bike. He was in excellent physical condition, and he went down. His race was over. And I'm sure he was doing longer than a sprint. I'm sure he had prepped for like an Ironman or something. But he went down. And that was a wrap for him on the day. I think he left in an ambulance. So that focused me up quite a bit. But even with that, the bike was where I first started to feel like a triathlete. That's where I felt like I kind of belong here. I felt like less of an imposter, and that was a good feeling. Even though I kind of felt like I belonged, though, I was happy to see the end of that race, or the end of that leg of it anyway. To get into the dismount area, hop off the bike, and put my stuff away. Put your bike away before you take your helmet off. It's an instant disqualification, and I can't imagine. I was so paranoid, I was already all the way in my running stuff when I took my helmet off. My goal for the bike was 45 minutes, and I just missed it. So my goals weren't crazy, but I didn't quite make it. A little slower than I wanted to be. But then I was off the bike, and I was ready for what I was sure was going to be my best event, which was the run. So I started my watch round about the beginning. It was nowhere close to like accurate to my official time or anything, but it would give me an idea of where I was in the race. My second transition was actually pretty fast. Under 2 minutes, I was off the bike, dressed, and I'd hit the road. But I still knew I was going to need to run my fastest 5K ever if I was going to make my goal. And I hadn't even factored in my transitions yet. I was already pretty gassed, but I felt good. I felt ready, and I hit the road moving. And the first mile felt really good. At least I thought it did. So I was looking at, originally, I wanted to get my 5K time under 30. I needed to go much faster than that if I was going to get under 90 minutes for the event. But I had run into the 25s in training, and I thought, it's race day, I'm amped up, I'm going to be nice and quick. So I assumed, based on how tired I was after what I thought was the first mile, I assumed that I'd been running for 8 to 10 minutes. And when I checked my watch, I had only been running for less than 6 minutes. And then when I was almost completely exhausted, I looked up, and in the distance, I saw the mile 1 marker. So I was pretty sure, just based on how I felt, that I was behind pace and I was more tired than I thought I was. So as hard as the first mile was mentally, that last mile was brutal physically. I saw a lot of people walking, a lot of people in better shape than me. I saw them walking, and I thought to myself, I just don't want to do that. I'm not going to make my target, but I just don't want to walk. I really want to keep up at least this level of effort as I'm finishing out this run, crossing the finish line, and putting a line under this project. I really wanted to hit it running. My arms got really numb, which was alarming, like tingly numb. And my legs weren't doing exactly what I was asking them to do, but I was able to kind of gut it out, and it felt like I was gutting it out. And then I crossed the finish line running. I ran across the finish line, and a very happy woman who I've never met before handed me the most delicious Gatorade I'd ever had in my entire life in a tiny little paper cup. And then she handed me a medal. And to tell you where my head was at, I put the medal on before I drank the Gatorade. And she looked at me and she was like, first time? Like, here, we give a shit that you just did this. And my 5K time, my run time for the triathlon was worse than my first training run 6 months ago. The very first training run that I did, where I had to like stop and walk, was faster than my performance on race day. So a little bit disappointing, but still not way out from the goal that I had set for myself. But all in, I didn't really come close to making that goal. But I finished, and I ran across the finish line, and at no point did I quit or stop to rest or anything like that. I grinded all the way through it, and when I ran across that finish line, I officially became a triathlete, and I was pretty pumped about that. Felt good, felt different. So, I made it. Actually, wait. Yes. I don't know why I was doing this without this. That is genuine metal. So I made it, but I did not make it in 90 minutes. I think I've come to the conclusion that 90 minutes is actually pretty good, even for a sprint. The people who were putting up 90 minutes, they were in the top like 50 to 60 people, and there was over 300 people at the thing, so they were pretty good. Obviously, the elites were doing it way faster than that, but my total time ultimately was 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 29 seconds. So I was off by 12 and a half minutes, didn't quite make it. I came in 107th overall, but maybe my favorite stat, I came in 5th in my division, which had more than 5 people in it, which means I beat someone. Or several people, depending on how many people were in my division. There were 6 people in my division, but I came in 5th. I beat somebody with whom I was evenly matched. I was better prepared than somebody else, another guy between the ages of 40 and 44. I could not believe that to be true. Now, this is in no way intended to shit on that person at all. This is a very hard thing to do. Realistically, I thought I was going to come in last in my division because men in their early 40s, it's still a pretty strong division. But no, I didn't. I didn't come in last. I won a little bit. I beat one person, you know? So that was really something else. I also got beaten handily by a 66-year-old woman. Which I actually found incredibly encouraging. Because the people that I met at this thing were like beyond positive. They're like the nicest people ever. And the fact that I put all this training in and did as well as I could and got a time that ultimately I was actually very proud of. I was very proud of an hour and 42 minutes and coming in 107th and all that. I was very proud of it. The fact that somebody over 20-something years older than me was able to do this much, much better than I was means that I have more training ahead of me. I have more performance improvement ahead of me. There's just more of this ahead of me. I can do better and better and better. And based on how I felt when this was over, I want more of this. I never thought that I was going to do anything like this, ever. I never thought I would. And now that I have, it's starting to feel a little bit like it's me. It's starting to feel a little bit like a thing I can do. Like I'm a guy who can do this. And that is a wild mental transformation in 6 months. So ultimately what I got was a medal and a t-shirt. You get to keep the swim cap. And
you look like an applicator.
This confidence based on like, I decided I was going to do this, did it, stuck with it. And like now I'm a person who's capable of doing that, which I was before. I just didn't know it because it seemed like this impossible thing, but it was just that first run, going for that first run, buying the bike, doing all the scary like first steps that weren't really all that scary, just doing them and going through it. I just got this feeling of like, what else could you do that you're not doing? It was something. It was really something. And that was it. 6 months, a couple of 100 miles run, a few dozen pond lengths swum, thousands of minutes on the bike, and 25 pounds lost. And I completed my first triathlon. And that's what it was like. Okay.